Hello everybody and welcome back to another reading video here on my channel, and in today's video we are actually going over my February wrap up, all the books that I did accomplish, or I guess a few books that I finished in the month of February. It wasn't very much. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this video and try and keep it short and sweet. If you guys have been to my channel, you might have seen one of my reading vlogs that I was actually doing for the month of January. It was at the end of January and it also led into the month of February, I think the first 2 weeks of February. So I was trying really hard to finish this first book actually in the month of January, and then we just got a little bit busy and I didn't get there. The first book I'm going to talk about is none other than The Hider by Lauren D. Esselman. I actually got this from my local library and I liked it so much that I did get this book and the next book I'm going to talk about off of Amazon and delivered to me because I had to add them to my home library because I liked them that much. This book I did rate 3.5 stars, and I really love the concept of technically you have these two people, this 18-year-old boy, his name was Jeff, and then this older man, his name was Jack. He came along passing by Jeff's house, and then Jeff asked if he could come along on this hunt, and they were on technically a hunt to search out for the very last buffalo and try to kill it, hunt it down, kill it, and also skin it for its hide. However, there is some other things, some unexpected things that happen on this journey, and when I say that throughout the whole book we are technically still following this journey, we very much are, and it's a very good premise of the book in my opinion. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I really love how we also end up meeting up with this Native American, this Indian. His name was Logan, or at least he went by Logan, and there's something that happens with him and he's falsely accused of murder, and with him comes some bad things, like some maybe potential death and other events. And I don't want to spoil too much if you are curious about this book, but I actually really enjoyed this, and like I said, I rated it 3.5 stars. I found it very interesting, and I feel like it kind of set the pace a little bit for the next book, but in completely different ways, if that makes sense. And also, I love this cover. I was debating between this and an older version, which was also in hardcover. It was like a black and white, because I loved both copies, but then I went ahead and went with what technically drew me in the library, which was the cover itself. And then hopping into our next book, if you see my reading vlog, then you already know it's also a Western, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. It was actually a start to a new series called Nordic and Finn. I think also the series is called Nordic and Finn. However, we do have book one, and at first I hopped into this, I felt like it was a little slow. I think in a way I was burning myself out with Westerns because I was just kind of going into it a little bit heavy, trying to read a lot of them because I really love the genre and I was just on a Western kick. I still kind of am, but I'm kind of chilled out a little bit. And I love this cover as well. This is also what kind of drew me in, and this is one of those books that I just felt like maybe it was going to pick up, but when it did finally pick up for me, which was maybe, I don't know, 50 pages, 30 pages into it, I think technically, it picked up and it didn't stop picking up until the very end of this book, like the final page. And I think that's the other thing too I talked about in the reading vlog. It was like the first 30 pages, something crazy in a way happens, like not super crazy, like a whole, I mean, I guess there is a death, but more so it's like this guy, his name is Anders, I think it is. Yeah, Anders Nordic, and he actually goes into town for once because usually he lives by himself out in the woods. You know, this is the Old West. So he's doing things by himself and he needed some supplies. So he went into town and then he noticed a bunch of kids. I don't remember if they were hitting the dog or abusing the dog. Anders yelled at the kids and told them to knock it off, get away from the dog, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually he went into the saloon, got a drink, got some stew. And then lo and behold, one of those boys went and cried to his daddy. And his daddy was this big bad banker who had like this big last name or big name in the town. So of course there's trouble with that. He brought the sheriff. One person gets punched in the nose. Another person, after they try and follow him, gets shot and killed. And then this dog actually goes out with him, basically because he saved his life in a way, and also he gave him a bone. So now they're like this. They're best friends, you know, man and dog. And he actually names the dog Finn, and that's where you get the Nordic and Finn. And the adventure that these two kind of go on because they're trying to escape what technically happened, because he's now wanted for murder of this police officer, not just assault on this other officer. So in a way, it's like you're following him just trying to break away from what happens in the first 30 pages, but there's some characters that he technically doesn't meet. He's already met because he's living on their land, but we get to meet them and you fall in love with them. Some bad, terrible things happen at the end, and I felt like this was so binge worthy. Like once it started picking up, it really just kept picking up, and I had such a fun time. I was so invested, and even though it's a start to a new series, I'm so excited to hop into eventually book 2, and I might end up getting that for my library, and of course if I like it, just adding it to my shelf. After this book though, I definitely had to chill myself out with Westerns. And then the final book for that reading vlog that you might have seen was actually me hopping into the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the first prequel before the original trilogies. I'm not gonna say that I loved it or that I hated it. I just rated it 3 stars down the middle. Part of me really loved it. Like, I understood a lot of why this book was written, and there were some things that happened that I was very invested in, and then majority of the story I was just kind of like, it's not where I wanted it. I was hoping we'd get to see President Snow become the president, not some events that happen in his life, but I also thought it was kind of interesting at the same time. I understand totally why this book is given. I think you should read it. I definitely think you should read the original trilogy, then read this book, not read this book first and then go into the original trilogy after Sunrise on the Reaping. I have yet to read Sunrise on the Reaping, but I am so excited about it. I cannot wait to read that book. This book I did feel was a little bit slow, and also the Hunger Games. Like, I know technically in the original trilogy when we're following the 2 Hunger Games that takes place, it's because of the characters, the main character and everything like that is involved. So we get a lot of that inside the Hunger Games. But I felt like during this, we didn't get much chaoticness in a way. We had one event that happened with Snow and his friend Sejanus during the Hunger Games, and I felt like that was like the most chaotic or most interesting part of the entire book, or for me at least, like it piqued my interest. I got really invested. I felt like there was going to be a lot of drama, maybe some death, and there kind of was. But at the same time, after that ended, it was like the Hunger Games in a way wrapped up, kind of was not really that eventful. Like, I felt like the way that it ended was just, I don't know, it just wasn't the best. And I think I have connected a few dots between this book and the original trilogy, or some things that were said in the original trilogy. So I think I enjoy this. Like, I'm more thankful for this book now versus when I first read it. However, it's just one of those that for my time reading it, it was just kind of slow for me. And I listened to a lot of it on audio because I also was repainting our entire living room. I didn't even have to worry about how slow I was physically reading it. I just felt like it was a little bit dull. And also that Snow is not necessarily a good character. I thought technically in the beginning, one specific event was going to change his life. And that's why we have the Snow that we know from the original trilogy. And in a way, you can kind of say that one person kind of did that. But there's not really one single event that happens. There's some things that because of his decisions happened, but for the most part, it's just, he was a bad character. Like, he thought bad things from time to time. He just wasn't a good character. And then he grew up and became president, and we all seen how he was in the original trilogy. So I'm very thankful for it, like I said, but for my time reading it, it was definitely a 3 stars. I would definitely recommend though. It is one of those that even though I didn't enjoy it that much, I've seen where people still love this, like 4 or 5 stars. They said it was one of the best books, and I think it's to each their own, but I still think it's important to read it if you want to read the full series. And then finally, we hop into my final book for the month of February, and it is none other than book 2 in the Young Elites trilogy, and it is called The Rose Society. When I was doing my end of the year wrap up, I remember talking about, I think I read it almost a year ago now, but the Young Elites and how invested I was. I think I rated it about 4.5 stars. The way that book ended was crazy to me. Like, I just was so absorbed into it, so invested, that I felt like everything I was reading just was hitting me out of left field, and I was so much there for it. And then hopping into this book, I still kind of felt those feelings. There were some things that maybe I didn't like as much, more the character was making, and then some other things that I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. I can't wait to read the final book. I did also rate this book 4.5 stars. I thought this book, again, was such a great book, and we had so many events going on in this book. Some potential great books set up for the next book, or like some events that were set up that I can't wait to get into the next book. We have some questions that I have, and I'm excited, but I'm also kind of worried because we don't follow a character who's like a really good character. She's actually supposed to be like a morally gray character. She's not really a morally gray character. She's more of a bad character. She also has this darkness within her because she has powers, and she is like, I can't remember what they call it, but like an illusionist in a way. She uses shadows to kind of bend and create images, and some people, or I guess if she's feeling bitter enough, let's just say, she can create physical pain, or those people think that they're literally dying or being strangled or having their skin flayed off of them, is some ways that she has been doing things. And so there's moments where you're kind of like questioning, is she somebody that we should be kind of rooting for, or maybe she isn't, because she's also the main character technically. But we also have her sister, and then the Young Elites, I'm just gonna say, because there's some things that happen in book 1 that I can't spoil for book 2, but there is some other things that go on in this book revolving around life and death. Some things I didn't necessarily see, like a little bit of a plot twist, especially with a, I'll just say a queen, and then we have some other things go on that I'm like, this is gonna be perfect for book the number 3. Like, this life and death type situation, this terrible, maybe really bad darkness in this character in book 3 is gonna be absolutely amazing, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited to finish this trilogy. I definitely think this is my favorite one. After reading the Legend trilogy and now hopping into this one, this is definitely so much better for me, more towards my liking. There are some things I don't like about about it. More so the whole setting and the whole elements around brothel, because this is a YA technically book. And I feel like you really shouldn't have that in a YA book, especially having consorts, but I don't know. However, I am 20 something years old, so it doesn't bother me as much. But if I would have found this book as a middle schooler, I would have been, besides the fact that we had to read a book in school regarding that, I would have been probably upset that we were reading it, because I remember how we are with the other book that our teacher actually wrote and made us read, and it included a brothel, and it was something that we didn't know anything about it at the time until that book, until we all started asking questions, and our parents were very upset. And I feel like that is the same with this book, because it's technically YA, so I feel like it's definitely should be more like young new adult and not so much YA. I did rate this one 4.5 stars, and I really cannot wait to continue and hopefully finish this series. Just had to get off the phone with my husband. It was his lunch break and he was calling me, which I don't mind. However, these are the 4 books, the only 4 books that I ended up tackling in the month of February. It wasn't a crazy reading month. I had some good reads, some semi-okay reads, but I just really wasn't able to read a lot. I just had a lot going on. Same with the beginning of March. But with these 4 books that I did read, I did accomplish 1,474 pages, which was not that much compared to the previous month, and also I had 0 5-stars. I have yet to find a 5-star this year, which is okay in all due time. I know when I find it, it's gonna feel so refreshing, especially the farther along I get into 2026. I feel like the longer I have to wait going into a year to find a 5-star, it's more rewarding than if I find it in the first month. I know that sounds weird, but it makes sense in a way, or at least it makes sense to me. Continuing in with some monthly statistics, let's also go through my reading journal, and the first page I'm gonna stop on is my 26 books I want to tackle in 2026. I only accomplished 1 other book on that list. I already had previously 3 books crossed off, and we have crossed off another book, which was The Rose Society. That takes us around 15% accomplished, but you know what? That's okay, because I hope that this next coming month I will read a lot more, or if not, I will try and tackle this list maybe a little bit halfway through the year. I feel like that's a good time. Just kind of try and tackle as many books from this list as possible. Get a lot more finished and out of the way compared to trying to do it October and November like I did last year, or November and December. On my physical TBR, technically last month I had 74 books that I had yet to tackle to read, and this month, ironically, because I read 2 books from the library and I accomplished 2 books, I'm still at 74, and that is because I went out and bought 2 books. One, I went to half price books because I had 10% off. I technically have 10% off every other month for the year. It's like January, February, I get 10% off, then March and April I get it. I just have to pick one a month. It's only a one-time use. When I went there, I picked up the 3rd book in the Red Queen trilogy. That book in specific, I knew I was going to read anyways, and so since they had it in hardcover, I went ahead and picked it up. And then just recently, my husband and I went thrifting. We went up to Columbus, Ohio, actually, which was very far away, but I had an appointment up there for something in specific that maybe one day I will talk about. It's just been multiple years in the making in a way. However, I did pick up Dance of Thieves there. I found a paperback and I contemplated it, and my husband said, if you want it, just grab it. And I really didn't want to add to my physical TBR, but at the same time, I really wanted this book because I've heard such amazing things. So I did pick that one up. So I added 2 books, even though I read 2 books. So we're still at 74 books. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's kind of bad because I should be lower than I think 60 this year, or around 60 books on my physical TBR. I still have plenty of months though. Hopefully I can get with it. This year I have tackled a total of just 11 books within 2 months. And also mystery is now tied with YA fantasy at 3 books for the top genre. My favorite book of February was actually none other than Nordic and Finn. I was contemplating between this and The Rose Society because I really loved The Rose Society. Both of these were 4.5 stars, but I was just rethinking about this book because this is the first time ever reading this versus a second book in a series that I technically already knew kind of what was going on. So I decided that this one would be my favorite book of the month. And now I have a few challenges. Let's start with my alphabet challenge. We have for B, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, The Hider for H, Nordic and Finn for N, and finally The Rose Society for R. So we tackled 4 more letters off of this challenge. And then for my bingo challenge, I don't think every single book this month made it to this list. First, we do have a book with a map being The Rose Society, and then the only other book that got to cross off a space was Start a New Series being Nordic and Finn. And finally, for my final challenge, this is just a reading challenge. Like I bought because of the cover, or I got at the library, or just random things. And technically, none of the books made it to this list. I wanted to put bought because of the cover, maybe for The Hider or Nordic or Finn, because technically at the library, I got it because of the cover. But because I got it at the library first and I didn't physically buy it, I decided not to write it down. Maybe another time I will pick up a book just because of the cover. Actually, I do have a book. If I tackle it this month, there is going to be a book that I put down because of the cover, which I'm super excited about that. But that is everything I have for the monthly statistics and challenges within my reading journal. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you guys all enjoyed this little wrap up. I really hope that next month, especially with it being a longer month, it will be so much better. And I just got confirmation on my phone call with my husband, since he called during lunch, that we are going down to Florida tomorrow. So I have about a 12-hour drive that I can be trying to tackle, hopefully finish a whole book and maybe start or get halfway through a second book. So I'm super excited about that. If you're curious about any other reading challenges I have here on my channel, or just reading vlogs, reading in general, I have a whole playlist down in the description. I hope to see you in another video here on my channel, and as always, God bless. Hello?
Hello.
See,
It's a shark.
do you like it?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna bring another one when I take a bath.
Okay, well, you get a bath tonight because we're going on a long car ride tomorrow.
Oh.
We're gonna go down to Florida, another state within the United States, in
Oh.
America.
Where are we gonna go?
We're gonna go to my Uncle Sandy's house, the one that died.
Oh.
We're gonna go to his house.
Oh.
My husband and I bought our son these little foam capsules that you put in water and they make little shapes. And he wanted a shark. He wanted to choose a green one, and I didn't think it would turn into a shark, and he got what he wanted, which is so cute. You go.
You want to show your camera?
Yeah. Bye.
Stop. Not really good.